In this video, I want to talk to you about vibe coding. So the plan is I'm just going to go over it very briefly in terms of what vibe coding is and some of its limitations and some of the real common issues that is associated with it. And after that, I will go over a tool that I have found very useful when testing vibe coded apps. Okay, so let's start out on the Wikipedia page for vibe coding, and the definition down here says essentially that it was created, or the term was created, by the computer scientist Andrej Karpathy, who is one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and he introduced the term vibe coding in February 2025. The concept refers to a coding approach that relies on LLMs, so large language models, that allows programmers to generate working code by providing natural language descriptions rather than manually writing that code. So what he's saying essentially there is you can use stuff like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, any of those to just write in human-based language, create me a web app in PHP, for instance, and it will just go ahead and do that. And then the issue is that the person generating that may not really understand the code that's been generated. Okay, so let's just scroll down a little bit further and go to the limitations. You can see here we've got the subsection quality of code and security issues, where it says vibe coding has raised concerns about understanding and accountability. Developers may use AI-generated code without fully comprehending its functionality, leading to undetected bugs, errors, or security vulnerabilities. So essentially that's exactly what I talked about just there. And from a pen testing perspective, some of the biggest issues that I have noticed is with vibe coding, you often find that there is things like access tokens, API keys, passwords, things like that that are in the front end code, or even in GitHub repositories. So we can use a tool such as Trufflehog to detect those. Okay, so to find Trufflehog, we'll just go to our favorite search engine. In my case, that is DuckDuckGo, and I'm going to type in Trufflehog. And it's about the third one down, so it's part of Truffle Security /Trufflehog. Let's click on that and go through the README file, which is pretty extensive. And if we go to our installation, you can see that you can install it on Mac OS pretty easy. If you just use brew, you can do brew install Trufflehog. Alternatively, there are a number of Docker containers that you can use. Personally, I prefer using a Docker container for tools like this. That's purely because they just work out of the box. So sometimes you may have an issue with a tool written in Python and you might not have the correct version for that, and you get a number of conflicts when trying to run it. Docker will essentially just alleviate this because it will have all of that built in, so you can just run it and it should work. Okay, so let's try the Unix one, seeing as I am using Kali. Let's open up our terminal and then paste this command in. So what it's doing is running docker, and -rm will ensure that it removes itself after it's run, so you don't end up with loads of junk afterwards. -it will essentially ensure that it's run interactively, so that we'll get the output. And -v is verbose. The pwd section is essentially run it from our local directory. Then we have the location of it, so that is Truffle Security /Truffle, and then we're running the latest version. Next, as the tool is running, we are specifying that we are running it against a GitHub repo, and then we specify that repo, which in this case is the Truffle Security /test keys. So let's just imagine that test keys is our vibe coded app. So just press enter on that. And you can see Trufflehog has unearthed some secrets. Let's scroll to the top. And you can see there's a number of different things it's found here. So we've found some AWS access keys and some credentials as well that are probably like basic authentication, so we could go ahead and use them. We know that they are admin. And then finally we have some private keys which can be used to SSH into a vulnerable system. So as you can tell, there is quite a lot of issues potentially with vibe coding. If you ask it to essentially write you a web app, it may not think of security first and may end up embedding some of these passwords and access keys into your code. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do remember to like and subscribe.